Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We'll get started, inshallah. It might be better if the sisters are on the side because the brothers come from here. So just so that you're out of their way. You'll be more comfortable that way, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Yeah. Correct. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawalah. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla, wa anta ya hayyu ya qayyum, taj'alul hazna idha shi'ta sahlan sahla. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وحسن أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا ممن يسمع أحسنه ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Alhamdulillah, dear brothers and sisters, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us once again to this very special season of Hajj. Those of you who are going for Hajj, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to facilitate your journey to Hajj. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove all the obstacles from your path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you healthy and energized and focused throughout your journey. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take you there safely and bring you back safely, and most importantly, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with a Hajj Mabrur. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. And for those of us who are not able to go this year, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us there soon. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. So, inshallah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the fiqh of Hajj, the do's and don'ts of Hajj, okay? And when Imam Azhar comes, if he comes, he's not feeling well, so I'm not sure if he will come, but if he comes, then he will talk about the spiritual aspects of Hajj, inshallah ta'ala. So, at any point, if you have a question, just please raise your hand, and inshallah, I will address your question, okay? I'm going to try to be as concise as possible and as simple as possible because the rules related to Hajj can be very complicated, but I don't want to complicate things for you. So I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can for you, inshallah ta'ala, okay? First, and also one more thing before I begin, again, I'm going to be focusing on the fiqh of Hajj, just the dry aspects of, what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. I will not be talking about the spiritual aspects of Hajj, which are also very important, the meanings, the symbolism, what you should be feeling and so on. That's also very important, but that's a separate talk. Imam Azhar is supposed to talk about that. If he's not here, then I will talk about that also once I'm done talking about the fiqh of Hajj, inshallah, okay? So, the first thing that I want to say is that there are 3 types of Hajj. You must choose which type you want to do. There are 3 options that you have, okay? You must choose which option you want. They are called Hajj Ifrad, Hajj Qiran, and Hajj Tamattu'. Hajj Ifrad, Hajj Qiran, and Hajj Tamattu'. Now, the Hajj that most people perform nowadays, especially those that go from the United States, is Hajj Tamattu'. It just logistically and practically speaking, it tends to be the easiest one, especially for those going from the United States. So it's rare to find somebody who is performing Hajj Qiran or Hajj Ifrad, okay? But you may be that one person, so I'm going to have to talk about all 3 real quick, inshallah. So let me talk about Ifrad and Qiran first, because That's the more rare scenario, and then I'll spend more time on tamattu', which is the more, common scenario, if you will. Hajj ifrad is when you enter ihram with the niyyah of performing Hajj only. No Umrah, just Hajj. So you enter ihram with the niyyah of Hajj, you do the rituals of Hajj. When you finish your Hajj, you come out of ihram and you are done with your Hajj. Now, if after that you also want to do Umrah, you can. But that will be a separate ibadah with a separate ihram and a separate niyyah. Okay? But you don't have to do Umrah. You can just do Hajj and come back. That's Hajj ifrad. So Hajj ifrad again is when you do Hajj only. And then if you want to do Umrah as a separate ibadah, well, that's separate. That's Hajj ifrad. So the practical consequence of that is that, let's say you land in Makkah, I don't know, on the 1st of Dhul Hijjah, let's say. You land in Makkah on the 1st of Dhul Hijjah. Well, you will have to enter ihram. If you're doing Hajj ifrad, then you will remain in ihram until Hajj is over, and Hajj will be over probably on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah. So that's 12 days of ihram. You see why most people don't do Hajj ifrad. But if you are arriving on, let's say, the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, and you're going to go straight to Arafah, you don't even have time to do Umrah, well then ifrad makes more sense. You just enter with Hajj ifrad, you finish your Hajj, you come out of ihram, and then if you have time, you do Umrah, otherwise you come back with just having performed Hajj. Okay, hang on. So that's Hajj ifrad. Now, there is one benefit of Hajj ifrad nowadays, which is that when you arrive in Makkah, again, you will have to be in ihram, right? When you arrive, you'll have to be in ihram. And as somebody who's performing Hajj ifrad, you will remain in ihram all the way until the Hajj finishes, which means all those days you are in ihram. And guess what? Nowadays, the authorities in the haram are only allowing people in ihram to go into the tawaf area. So for the men, this actually becomes something to think about. That if you are in ihram, then you can go into the mataf at any time. So if you are doing Hajj ifrad, then that brings you this one benefit, that you are in ihram, so you can go into the mataf at any time. Of course, for women, they are allowed at any time in the tawaf area. The authorities are allowing women to come in and go as you want, as long as there's space. But for men, they are requiring you to be in ihram. Okay? That's Hajj ifrad. Now let's talk about Hajj qiran. Hajj qiran is when you enter ihram with a dual intention. That I am entering ihram for Hajj and Umrah together. Hajj and Umrah together. And therefore you will do Hajj and Umrah together, and then once you are finished, you will come out of ihram. What that means is that you don't do Hajj and Umrah in sequence. You do it kind of mixed up together, which means that you're going to be doing more activity than you would be in Hajj ifrad. There's more ibadah that's involved. Okay? But it's one ihram and then you come out at the end. So same thing with Hajj qiran that you have in Hajj ifrad, in the sense that if you entered ihram on the 1st of Dhul Hijjah, well, you will not come out of ihram until Hajj and Umrah are done, and that's not going to be done until the 12th of Dhul Hijjah. Okay? Hajj tamattu' is different. Hajj tamattu' is a more relaxed Hajj. How is that? Because in Hajj tamattu' you enter first ihram of Umrah. First you do Umrah. Then after you finish Umrah, you come out of ihram. And once you come out of ihram, you can relax, because there are certain things that you cannot do in ihram. right? There's certain things you cannot do in ihram. You cannot put on scent, you cannot remove nails, you cannot cut hair, you cannot have intimacy with your spouses, and so on and so forth. So once you come out of ihram, you're relaxed, right? So if you go, let's say, for Hajj Tamattu on the 1st of Dhul Hijjah, well, you perform Umrah on the 1st or 2nd or 3rd of Dhul Hijjah, and then you're out of ihram. And then you remain out of ihram wearing normal clothes and scent and everything and so on until Hajj begins. And Hajj begins on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. So then you will enter a second ihram, a separate second ihram for Hajj, and then you will come out of that ihram once Hajj finishes on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah. Okay? Or actually earlier, on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah actually. Okay? So, Tamattu is when you do Umrah first, and then you do Hajj after that, two separate ihrams. Okay? So that's Ifrad, Qiran, and Tamattu. Alright? Clear?
Can we cut the nails after first ihram, centering the nails?
If you are doing, if you are out of ihram, then that by definition means that everything is halal for you. That's what by definition. Ihram from haram, out of ihram meaning halal. Okay? Alright. So let's talk about Hajj Tamattu. Yes.
So I intend to do tamattu. So I did, but my flight is like 26th. That's when people will be going to Mina. That's what they say. So if I reach 25th, I may not have time to do Umrah. Then what do I do?
Correct. So if you are arriving so close to Hajj that you will not have time to do Umrah before Hajj, then in that case, I would recommend that you make the intention of Hajj Ifrad. Hajj Ifrad, when you enter Ihram with the intention of Hajj Ifrad. So you go straight to Hajj, you go straight to Mina, start your Hajj, and then once you finish your Hajj, then if you have time and if you have the opportunity, you can do a separate ibadah, separate Umrah.
The question is, like, I don't know the logistics and anything what's going on. It's very chaotic, okay? So, like, I said that, okay, I will have time, okay, to do Umrah, then go on 26th. But, and so I did, put on Ihram with Tamattu. But when I went over there, I could not make it. Then what do I do? That is my question.
Yes, it can be changed. Yes, it can be changed. All right. So now I'm going to talk assuming that we're going to do Hajj Tamattu. Okay, now what do we do first in Hajj Tamattu? What did I say? What do we do first in Hajj Tamattu? Umrah, right? So let's talk about Umrah first. Okay? Now, if you have ever performed Umrah before, the Umrah of Hajj Tamattu is done exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. Okay? But in case you have not done Umrah before, I'm going to go over it quickly, inshallah, and it'll be a reminder for those who have done it before. Okay? So, what do you do? How do you do Umrah? Number one, you have to know what are the main things of Umrah. Main things. Because there's a lot of things that are not required. It's good to do them. There's a lot of reward for them. But there are certain things that are essential. Okay? Because last time when I went for Hajj, there was a sister who was crying because she couldn't do some of the things in Umrah. But when I talked to her, none of those things were essential. So she was freaking out for no reason because she didn't understand the difference between the essentials and the extras. Okay? So what are the essentials of Umrah? Number one, Ihram. Number two, Tawaf. 7 times around the Kaaba. Number 3, performing 2 rak'ah after the Tawaf. Number 4, going from Safa to Marwa and back to Safa and back to Marwa 7 times, what's called sa'i. And number 5, shaving or trimming your hair. Shaving or trimming your hair. That's it. That's what Umrah is. Very simple. Okay? But now let's go into the details. 5 things again, right? Ihram, tawaf, 2 rak'ah, sa'i, and clipping or shaving the hair. Okay? Let's talk about ihram first. What is ihram, first of all? Ihram is a state of the heart. It is a spiritual state. You enter into it by making an intention. It does not require any action. It doesn't require anything. It's an intention that you make in your heart that I am now entering ihram. The sunnah is that when you make that intention, you say something as well. You say a dua. And with that dua, you say, Labbaik Allahumma Umrah, or Labbaik Allahumma Hajj. For example, right? You say a dua. But what's most important is in your heart, it's an intention. Once you are in that state of ihram, certain things become haram for you. What things become haram for you? There's a list of things. The list is longer if you are a man. It's shorter if you are a woman. Okay? So the Sharia takes it easier on the ladies. So first, what are the things that are haram for everybody, meaning both the men and the women? Number 1, no sexual intercourse. And they woke up as the plane hit the ground. Okay? So they had to do dam for that. So to avoid getting into that situation, there's no harm if you make the intention a little bit before. And you don't have to wait right when the announcement is made. You know, if you're feeling tired, if you're falling asleep, go ahead and make the intention and then rest. And you're okay. So it's okay to make the intention before getting to the miqat as well. In fact, if you are boarding the flight, let's say from Dubai airport, right? When the flight departs, you can just make your intention right then. Because it's just a matter of a few minutes, pretty much. You know, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever, before you're going to enter into the miqat. Okay, the point is that you have to be in ihram before you cross that miqat. Okay? All right. We are done with ihram. Any questions about ihram? Yes?
If you're flying out of JFK or any other, we can get in the clothing and also pray to the Kaaba at the airport.
Yes, so you're flying from JFK to where? Istanbul, right? So don't do that at JFK airport. Istanbul airport, yes. So Istanbul airport, you're departing to Jeddah, right? So at Istanbul airport, before you get into the flight, if I were you, I would put on my ihram sheets there, and I would perform the 2 rak'ah there, and then I would not make the intention until as close to the miqat as possible. But if I want to rest in the plane and whatnot, then I can just make the intention right at the time of departure, and then I can go to sleep. Yes.
What about from IAD to Jeddah direct?
If you're going from IAD to Jeddah, there are direct flights from IAD to Jeddah, alhamdulillah. So same thing, you know, if I were you, I would put on my ihram sheets at the airport, and then I will pray my 2 rak'ah there as well at the airport, but delay my intention as close as I can to the miqat. Yes. Any other questions about ihram? Yes. Men are not allowed to cover their head during ihram. Umbrellas are not covering the head, they're providing shade for you. So those are fine. The ones that you wear like a cap, I would avoid those because there's difference of opinion about those. Yes. Okay? We're done with ihram? Yes. So I'm going to come to that inshallah in just a minute. Okay? Now you're in ihram. Now you arrive in Makkah. You arrive in Makkah. Umrah, we're talking about Umrah. You arrive in Makkah, right? The sunnah is to perform ghusl upon arriving in Makkah. That's sunnah. But wait a minute, you're in ihram. So what? Nobody said you can't do ghusl in ihram. You just have to be a little careful. You cannot apply scented stuff, and you cannot pull hair. Okay? Ghusl in our sharia is performed just by water. You don't have to use soap. Okay? Ghusl is simply what? Pouring water all over your body with the intention of ghusl. That's what ghusl is. And you perform wudu and so on, right? So there is absolutely nothing wrong with performing ghusl while in a state of ihram. Some people think I cannot even open my ihram sheets when I'm in ihram. No, the sheets are not ihram. Ihram is a state of heart. It's just that in that state I cannot wear regular clothing, but I can be naked in a state of ihram. You go to the bathroom, it's okay. Okay? So it is actually sunnah to perform ghusl when you arrive in Makkah. So when you arrive in Makkah, you go to your hotel, you check in and so on. Yani, if you're able to, it's good to perform ghusl. You don't have to, it's not a requirement. Then after that, you go for the next essential step in Umrah, which is what? Tawaf. Tawaf, okay? So now you go for Tawaf. Tawaf is 7 rounds around the Kaaba. You have to be in a state of tahara. You have to be in a state of tahara throughout the 7 circuits. If you break your wudu in the middle, you leave, you go and renew your wudu, you come back and you pick up where you left. You don't have to start all over. Okay? Every circuit begins at the black stone and ends at the black stone. Okay? So 7 rounds, that means you're going to pass the black stone 8 times. The 8th time you pass it, your 7th circuit is over. Okay? You have to make sure in tawaf that you are in a state of tahara, number 1. Number 2, that the Kaaba is on your left side, not on your right side. Okay? Now, number 3, that you are not walking backwards, because if you're walking backwards, then it will be on the right side. Okay? So like, for example, if you miss somebody, where did they go, and you turn around to look for them, now you're walking backwards. Be careful about that. Okay? You can stop and turn around to look for them, but stop. Don't walk backwards, because then the Kaaba is to your right. The Kaaba has to be to the left. You can look at the Kaaba, that's not a problem. You can face the Kaaba to look at it, but it's my left side of the body that is facing the Kaaba, not the right side of the body. The 7 rounds that you make, when you begin at the black stone, you look at the black stone and you raise your hand and you say, Allahu Akbar. And you kiss your hand. You can do it with one hand or both hands. Allahu Akbar, and kiss your hand. And there's a dua that is supposed to be said at that point also. It's extra. Okay? And then you start walking. For the men, at that point, what else do? You expose your right shoulder. So you bring that sheet underneath the armpit and over your left shoulder, bearing your right arm and right shoulder. And you will keep it that way until the 7 rounds are done. Once the 7th round is done, your tawaf is done, you will cover it back up. Okay? The other thing that men do, sunnah to do, is to do ramal when you are doing the first 3 rounds of this tawaf. The first 3 rounds. Ramal is basically to walk with energy, moving up and down, up and down, up and down. Not running, moving up and down, moving your shoulders up and down, and bending your knees up and down. It's a walk with energy. It's tiring. Okay? So you do as much as you can, inshallah. If it tires you out, maybe take a break for a few seconds, then do it again. You do that for only the first 3 rounds. And that's only done in the tawaf of Umrah. It's not done in the extra tawafs. Okay? So you do 3 times, and then the rest of the 7 rounds. Every time you pass by the black stone, you will raise your hand, 1 or 2 hands, Allahu Akbar, and kiss. Okay? The corner before the black stone is called the Yemeni corner. The corner before the black stone is called the Yemeni corner. Okay? What is sunnah to do at the Yemeni corner is to touch it and wipe it with your right hand. Just like this. Just wipe it with your right hand. If you're able to get to it, just wipe it with your right hand. Okay? Do not push, do not shove, do not hurt anybody while you are doing tawaf. After you finish the 7 rounds of the tawaf, then you need to do what? This is the next essential item. 2 rak'ah. These 2 rak'ahs are the 2 rak'ah of tawaf. They are wajib in the Hanafi school, sunnah according to the others. So you will make the intention of 2 rak'ah wajib of tawaf if you're Hanafi, otherwise 2 rak'ah sunnah of tawaf if you're not Hanafi. Preferably, these 2 rak'ahs need to be prayed in front of Maqam Ibrahim. Maqam Ibrahim between you and the Kaaba. So put Maqam Ibrahim between you and the Kaaba and perform these 2 rak'ahs, preferably. But they don't have to be performed there. They can be performed anywhere, even at the hotel. But of course, it's better to do it in the masjid, of course. Anywhere in the masjid, preferably in front of Maqam Ibrahim, otherwise anywhere in the masjid, otherwise at the hotel or anywhere you want. But these 2 rak'ahs have to be performed after tawaf according to the Hanafis. It's wajib, according to others it is sunnah. Yes. Yes. If you forget to perform them, you will make them up. But they have to be made up according to Hanafis because they are wajib. Okay?
During this process, when you break Fajr, first when you say you go to when you come back, but given where you are, crowded and everything, what's the option of using the Imam at that point? Even with the bare hand, bare ground, or if you have like a bottle of water or something that you can quickly do and just keep going?
So the question is that if you break your wudu in the middle of tawaf, because of the crowd and the restrooms are far away, can you just do tayammum? The answer is no, you cannot do tayammum because there's plenty of water available. Even Zamzam water is available in the haram. There are Zamzam stations that you can go to and people make their wudu there because there's drainage in the ground. There's drainage. So, and especially if you have a bottle of water, and get away from the crowd, find one of those drainage areas where there's drainage on the ground, and just do your quick wudu there, okay? But no, you cannot do tayammum in that situation because there's plenty of water available.
Which wudu? Can you explain that? Full wudu 3 times, everything but the other option.
Wudu, the bare essentials of wudu are to wash the face once, entire face once. Then to wash the arms once, up to the elbows. Then to wipe the head once. And then to wash the feet once. That's it, with the intention of wudu. These are the bare essentials of wudu. No, no. Alright, so we're done with tawaf. And we're done with the 2 rak'ah after tawaf, right? Now after that, what's the next essential item? Sa'i between Safa and Marwa. As you are going for sa'i, stop and drink Zamzam. Because it's sunnah to do that. Drink as much Zamzam as you can, until you can't drink it anymore. Okay? And make a lot of dua as you drink Zamzam. Alright? So take some time, face the Kaaba, drink Zamzam, 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, as many as you can, inshaAllah ta'ala. And maybe take a little bit and just also put it on your face, put it on your head for barakah, but don't create a mess on the ground for people to slip. Okay? Then you finish drinking Zamzam, you go for sa'i. Sa'i begins at Safa, and there are big signs. Safa is one end, Marwa is the other end. There used to be two hills, now it's just two ends of a hallway. There's a long hallway, one end of it is Safa, one end of it is Marwa, the hills are underneath. Okay? So you go to Safa first, one end of the hallway that says Safa on it, and you make dua there, that is recommended. Okay? And you start walking from that end to Marwa. As you are walking to Marwa, right? As you're walking to Marwa, you're going to be making dhikr and dua and so on. You're going to pass by an area that has green lights, the green zone. That's where Hajar alayhi salam ran. So it's sunnah for men to run, not for women. For sunnah for men to run there. And this is now running. This is not like Ramal just walking up, no, this is running. So you run in that region, of course without hurting anybody, right? If it's extremely crowded, well then you don't run, okay? Only if you can run, then you run, okay? So you run in that green zone, and then when the green zone ends, you start walking again, and then you get to Marwa, you stop there, make dua there, that's one. Then you do the same thing from Marwa to Safa. You're going to run in the green zone and walk in the rest of it. You get to Safa, that's two. Then again, from Safa, you go back to Marwa, running in the green zone, end up at Marwa, that's 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, you're going to end up at Marwa. You're going to end up at Marwa, okay? And when you end up at Marwa, you don't make dua. So you're making dua at Safa, Marwa, Safa, Marwa, Safa, Marwa, Safa, and then when you get to Marwa, you don't make dua. You're done. There are specific du'as, but I'm not going to talk about that because these are extras and you can find them in books. If I say them now, you won't be able to memorize them anyway. Okay? They're easily available du'as. And add your own du'as to them as well. Okay? Now, one question that is often asked, do you have to be in a state of tahara for sa'i? No. Slippers that are allowed for men, you can wear them in tawaf and sa'i. And women can wear any kind of shoes in tawaf and sa'i. But my suggestion is in tawaf, don't wear them. Because what's going to happen is you're going to hit people's feet. And they're not going to be wearing shoes and you're going to hurt them. Okay? And you will notice, those who are wearing slippers, you will get hurt by them. It's not comfortable at all, you know? So don't do that to others. But in sa'i, there tends to be more room. And so if you need to wear slippers in sa'i, make sure they're clean and you can wear them, inshallah. Okay? Now, also keep in mind that sa'i has multiple floors. There's first floor, second floor, third floor for sa'i. What they call ground floor, first floor, and second floor. Okay? My advice is do it on the second or third floor. There's less people there. The air conditioner is really good up there. You'll have an easier time. Okay? But if you want the full experience of the crowd and everything, then do it on the ground floor, on the first floor. Okay? But you can do it on any of those floors, inshallah ta'ala. All right? We're done with sa'i. Any questions about sa'i? Yes? No, you are in ihram. Men are in ihram, remember? In ihram, they cannot wear socks. Okay, any other questions about sa'i? Okay, we're done with sa'i. What's the next essential step? Are we done with Umrah? We're not done with Umrah. We have one more step left, very important. After sa'i, you are not done with Umrah. There's one more step. And that is to remove hair. Now for women, they're just going to remove a little bit, just a few millimeters, like a centimeter and so on, that's it, right? For men, since you are doing Hajj tamattu', you're going to remove your hair again after Hajj. So what I recommend is that you don't shave your head at this time. You just cut your hair. You go to the barber and you ask him to give you a haircut. And you leave the rest of the hair to be shaved after Hajj. Okay? Inshallah ta'ala. If you don't have any hair, if you are bald, you don't have, mashallah, all of you have hair, But in case there's somebody who doesn't have any hair, then they simply symbolically, like a symbolic gesture, they take a razor blade and they just kind of just put it on their head as a symbolic gesture of shaving, but they don't actually do anything because they don't have anything there. And after you do that, now you have exited ihram. You have exited ihram. It's like saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Your prayer ends, your ihram has ended. Even though you're still wearing your ihram sheets, but now you can remove them or keep them on if you want, it's up to you. But you have exited the spiritual state of ihram. Okay? And your umrah is done. Any questions? Yes?
Cutting hair, barber shops will be crowded and everything. Can husband and the wife cut each other's hair, or wives can do their own hair and they can trim their husband's hair?
Yes, they can do that.
It's not that one has to get out of her own stuff and then do the other one.
No,
They can do their
you
own.
can, you can.
do our own.
You do your own, you do your own to come out of ihram, then you do the other ones.
So ladies can cut their and they
Cut their own, one of them cuts her own hair to come out of ihram, and then she can do the others. Okay?
So the cutting of the hair from men to be like this on back or all over the place.
My recommendation, there's difference of opinion about this. My recommendation is just go to the barber and ask him to give you a haircut. That will satisfy all the different opinions. But if you want to know what is the bare minimum requirement, the Shafi'i school has the most lenient opinion on this issue, and they say as long as you cut three strands of hair, that's all that's required. 3 strands of hair. Okay? So that's the bare minimum according to the 4 schools of thought. Wallahu alam. Okay, we're done with Umrah. Any other questions about Umrah? Okay. So Imam Azhar is here. Welcome, Imam. Do you want to speak now, or do you want me to finish Hajj? We're probably going to need another 30, 45 minutes. Keep going? Keep going, inshallah ta'ala.
Do we have a ihram here? Because putting an ihram is very technical for men.
I don't have one, but I will, inshallah, if you come to me afterwards, I'll share a video with you, inshallah ta'ala. I'll share a video with you, okay? All right. Now, we are done with Umrah, all right? Now, what's going to happen is you are going to wait until Hajj begins. So, depending on your itinerary, you may have several days in the middle, or you may not have much time at all. So, if you have several days in the middle, these are days of ibadah. You know, you relax, you take it easy, you collect your energies for the Hajj. But, you spend your time wisely in ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can do extra tawaf. It's good to do as much tawaf as you can, okay? As much salah in Masjid al-Haram as you can, and so on. But then come the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, Hajj will begin, okay? Now, on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, what you're going to do is you're going to pray Fajr in Makkah. Pray Fajr in Makkah. And after you pray Fajr, you will enter Ihram. Ihram of Hajj. Okay? Where are you going to enter Ihram? In your hotel room. You don't go to Masjid Aisha for this one. Okay? You go to Masjid Aisha for Ihram of Umrah. But this is Ihram of Hajj. So you enter Ihram in Makkah where you are. Wherever you are, in a hotel room or wherever you are, right? And same thing that we talked about for Ihram of Umrah, the same sunnahs are there. So you will perform ghusl, you put on some perfume on your body, if you're a man, and then perform 2 rak'ah with the intention of sunnah of Ihram if it's not a makruh time, okay? And it's recommended to recite Surah Al-Kafirun and Surah Al-Ikhlas in this prayer, okay? After you finish your 2 rak'ah, now you will make the intention of entering ihram of Hajj, and you say that dua that is recommended at that time, and you start doing talbiyah now, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. And then you will go to Mina. Now depending on your package and so on, you might go right away, you might go later in the day. whatever the group requirements are. You go to Mina. All right? The sunnah is to go to Mina after sunrise. But your group might force you to go before sunrise. Don't make a big deal. It's not a big deal. This is sunnah. Okay? Go to Mina. On the way to Mina, there's also some du'as that are good to say. Again, I'm not going to go over the du'as as I said before. Then you arrive in Mina. Now, the entire 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, it is sunnah to spend this day in Mina. Sunnah, not requirement. Sunnah to spend this day in Mina. So you're going to perform Dhuhr and Asr, and you're going to shorten them. You will shorten Dhuhr, and you will shorten Asr. 2 rak'ah, but you're not going to combine them. You're going to shorten them and not combine them. Pray on time. Do a lot of dhikr, a lot of dua. And then the sun will set. When the sun sets, the day of Arafah has begun. But the ibadah of Arafah will begin in the daytime. This is the night of Arafah. So you will pray Maghrib and Isha in Mina, in your tent. Okay? Maghrib 3 rak'ah, Isha 2 rak'ah. Not combining them, on time. Maghrib on time, Isha on time. Okay? And then next morning you will perform Fajr. Fajr on time in Mina. Okay? After you perform Fajr, you will leave to go to Arafah. Again, the sunnah is to leave after sunrise, but your group may force you to actually even leave before Fajr. You might have to actually leave before Fajr. You might end up praying Fajr in Arafah. If they force you to do that, don't make a big deal of it. This is not a requirement. The sunnah is, if you have the ability, you pray Fajr in Mina, and then after sunrise, you leave for Arafah. Okay?
All those namaz prayers in Mina going to be performed by Jamaat or individual?
No, you, of course, the salawat, all the salawat, you know that the reward of Jama'ah is much more than praying individually. So you always try to pray in Jama'ah. You always try to pray in Jama'ah, and these tents will have their natural Jama'at going on. People will naturally, in your tent, they will pray in Jama'ah, so you just join the Jama'ah, inshallah ta'ala. You don't go to a masjid to pray, you just pray in your tent there, in Mina. I mean, there are masajid there, but you don't have to go there. If it's out of your way, you can just pray in your tent in Jama'ah. All right, then after sunrise, you, again, you're still doing the talbiyah. Talbiyah keeps going, dua and dhikr and salah ala nabi. And you go to Arafah. You arrive in Arafah. You're going to go there either by walking or by bus or by train, depending on your package. Okay? You arrive in Arafah. When you arrive in Arafah, it is sunnah to perform ghusl. It is sunnah to perform ghusl when you arrive in Arafah. It's not required. It's sunnah. Okay? So if you're able to go ahead and perform ghusl, and then you will basically wait for dhuhr. You will wait for dhuhr. Now, the Prophet ﷺ prayed dhuhr in what is called Masjid Namira. Masjid Namira. So, if you would like to go and pray there, that would be good. But I'll tell you that it's not easy. It's very hot. It's very crowded. It might be very far away from your tent. And what's more important than going to Masjid Namira is to be focused in your ibadah during this day. This whole day needs to be spent in dua. And you need to be alert, you need to be awake, you need to be focused, you need to be in khushu'. This is the most important day of Hajj. This is the most important day of your life, right? So you don't want to exhaust yourself, right? So everybody knows yourself. If you think that you can do it, you can go to Masjid Namra, go ahead, right? But if you think it's going to tire you out, stay in your tent and do your ibadah there, okay? So pray when dhuhr time comes in, you're going to pray dhuhr and asr together. You're going to combine them. Dhuhr and asr together, 2 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah. Yes, even if you are Hanafi, this is the one exception where in the Hanafi school you combine Dhuhr with Asr. Okay, you will see some ignorant people there insisting that in the Hanafi school you don't combine Dhuhr with Asr and they will only pray Dhuhr. Don't listen to them. You pray Dhuhr and Asr together here, and then you will not pray anything until Maghrib. You will not pray anything until sunset. In fact, even after sunset. So this whole day is freed up for you to do one thing: dua. Dua. So from Dhuhr all the way until sunset, make as much dua as you can, as much dua as you can, as much dua as you can. If you can stand and make dua, do that. If you're getting tired, sit down. You don't have to be standing. Maybe combine between them. Some dua standing up, most of it sitting down. Try to face the qibla as much as you can in your dua. Okay? And guard your tongue. Don't engage in unnecessary conversations. Guard your sight. Guard your ears. Right? You can make dua individually. You can make dua as a group as well. Okay? And it's good to have a list of du'as prepared beforehand so that you don't run out of them when you are there. Okay? Try not to eat too much, because if you eat too much, you're going to get sleepy. Okay? So be wise about these things while you're there. So drink lots of water. It's going to be very hot. Drink lots of water. You don't fast on the day of Arafah. We fast here. You Hujjaj don't fast over there in Arafah. You drink plenty of water, keep yourself hydrated, and make a lot of dua. And you do that all the way until until sunset. After sunset, you will get ready to leave for Muzdalifah. After sunset, you will get ready to leave for Muzdalifah. But once again, the group might make you leave before Maghrib. If you can convince them to let you stay until Maghrib, do that. Because the time before Maghrib is a special time for dua to be answered. So if you can convince them to stay until Maghrib, do that. But if they say, nope, you have to go, well then you don't have a choice. Okay? As long as you spent some time in Arafah, some time, that's the essential, bare essential that's needed. Khalas. The rest is extra. Okay? So don't make a big deal out of something that's not supposed to be a big deal. All right? So you leave for Muzdalifah, preferably after sunset. On the way to Muzdalifah, again, you're either going to go by foot or by bus or by train. All right? It might take a very long time. Spend that time in dhikr, in dua, in talbiyah. Okay? Recitation of Quran. You will delay your Maghrib until you arrive in Muzdalifah. So you will pray Maghrib at the time of Isha. Maghrib and Isha together at the time of Isha in Muzdalifah. Okay? It might be, quite a bit into the night. But that's okay. You pray Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. Unless it's a really unusual circumstance, you're running out of time of Isha even, well then you pray wherever you are. Okay? But most likely we'll be there inshallah, and you will pray your Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. 3 rak'ah Maghrib, 2 rak'ah Isha. And yes, even as Hanafis, you combine Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. Alright? Now, Witr, yes, of course, Witr. Witr is connected with Isha, right? Yes. Okay. Now, in Muzdalifah, you are supposed to spend the night. And you have to make sure that you spend the part of the second half of the night there. In other words, if you arrive in Muzdalifah early, and then there's a group that's leaving to go to Makkah or Mina, well, if it's not the middle of the night yet, you cannot leave. You have to wait until the middle of the night has passed. And the middle of the night does not mean midnight. Middle of the night does not mean midnight. Midnight is 12 o'clock. The middle of the night is the middle of the night. Sunset, dawn, beginning of the night, end of the night, middle of the night. So you have to calculate that. So you have to make sure that the middle of the night is over before you go to Mina. Okay? Now, you're going to spend the night there in Muzdalifah, and there is, of course, you're going to do a lot of dua, you're going to do dhikr, you will rest, inshaAllah ta'ala. but there's something important to do in Muzdalifah. Perhaps the most important thing, which is what? Collect your pebbles. Collect your pebbles. How many pebbles should you collect? More than 70. Have some extras just in case you lose some. So 70 plus. 70 plus. Okay? They need to be small, the size of basically your fingertip. Okay? Small pebbles. And you will collect them at nighttime. There are lights there, so you can see. But you might need to use the flashlight of your phone. So do that. Try to get a little bit of rest before Fajr. The sunnah is to get some rest before Fajr. Okay, so that is the sunnah. So you lay down, get some rest. And then you perform Salatul Fajr there. And after Salatul Fajr, you will do the takbirat. Takbirat of Eid. Labbaik Allahumma Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. Okay? Because now this is the day of Eid. This is Fajr of the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah. So you pray Fajr in Muzdalifah, preferably, and then you leave Muzdalifah. That's what the Prophet ﷺ did. However, a group of companions did leave by permission from Rasulullah ﷺ. They left Muzdalifah before Fajr so that they could get to Mina early and throw their pebbles early before the crowd got there. And therefore, if women especially and people who are handicapped and so on, they want to beat the crowd and they want to leave before Fajr to go to Mina early, they may do that. But just make sure it's after the middle of the night, not before the middle of the night. Okay? Sometimes you just have to do whatever the group tells you to do. So if your group is leaving before Fajr, well then you're not going to be given a choice, right? But if you have the choice, then the Prophet ﷺ, what he did was he prayed Fajr there in Muzdalifah and then he left. But some of the mothers of the believers did leave before Fajr as well. So don't feel bad if you have to do that. All right, you leave after Salatul Fajr. You leave Muzdalifah and you go to Mina. Remember, you were in Mina on the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah. But that 8th day stay in Mina was not a requirement. That was not a requirement. That was extra. That's sunnah. It was good to do. But the requirements began with Arafah. The requirements began with Arafah. So if you are in a situation where the 8th day you're arriving there at the end of the 8th day, right? And you don't get to spend any time in Mina, you need to go straight from Makkah to Arafat, it's okay. It's okay because that 8th day in Mina was a sunnah, it's not a requirement. But now you're going to Mina for something that is wajib or rukn according to the different schools of thought. So this is important. All right. So you go to Mina, preferably before sunrise. Preferably again before sunrise. You leave for Mina. After Fajr, before sunrise. And on the way, again, a lot of dhikr, a lot of talbiyah, a lot of dua. Then when you enter Mina, there's a dua that you're supposed to say. You say that dua, and you enter Mina, and now on the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah is the busiest day of Hajj. The most things need to be done on this day. There are 4 things that you need to do now. 4 things that you need to do. All of them are important. One of them is more important than the others, but all of them are important. What are the 4 things? Number 1, throwing stones at the big pillar. Jamratul Aqabatul Kubra, the big pillar. There's 3 pillars. There's the big pillar, the medium pillar, the small pillar. Okay? And they're labeled. So on the 10th, you only throw pebbles at the big pillar. On the 11th and 12th, you will throw pebbles at each of the 3 pillars. But on the 10th, on this day, you will just throw pebbles at the big pillar. How many pebbles are you going to throw? 7. And the way you throw the pebbles is you simply get a little bit close to the wall of the pillar, and you take that pebble, and you lift your hand, you say, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you throw. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Okay? Gently. Shaitan is not standing in front of you, you're not trying to beat him up. Okay? So this is a symbolic gesture. Allahu Akbar. Ibrahim alayhi salam threw pebbles at the shaitan right there when he tried to dissuade him from sacrificing his son. So we're commemorating that act. 7 pebbles at Jamratul Aqaba. Now, after you throw the 7th pebble, then there is also a dua that is good to be made. So you throw pebbles, then the second thing, remember I said 4 things need to be done. That's number 1. Number 2 is offering a sacrifice, slaughtering an animal. Nowadays, of course, the agency takes care of that for you. So you will need to wait for them to give you a confirmation that your animal has been slaughtered. You will not be able to see it yourself unless you make special arrangements. Most people don't get to see it. You will just be informed by a text message or something like that that your qurbani has been done. Okay? But that has to be done on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. So that's 2. Number 3, shaving or trimming of the head. Shaving or trimming of the head. Of course, for women, they're just going to trim. For the men, it's good to shave. It's more reward to shave, but it is permissible just to trim and not to shave. Okay? So that's number 3. And number 4 is to do tawaf. And this is the most important. Out of these 4, this is the most important, tawaf. This is the tawaf of Hajj. This is called tawaf al-ziyarah, also called tawaf al-ifada or tawaf al-rukn or tawaf al-fard. Okay? And this tawaf is done just like any other tawaf. 7 rounds around the Kaaba, starting at the black stone. Allahu Akbar, kiss your hand, go around, touch Yamani corner. 7 rounds around the Kaaba, keeping it on your left-hand side, right? You don't do Ramal because that was only in the tawaf of Umrah, as I had said. Okay? You do 7 circuits around the Kaaba, and then after that, you pray your 2 rak'ah, right? Because 2 rak'ah is after every tawaf. You pray your 2 rak'ah, and then you go and do sa'i, because you're doing Hajj tamattu'. In Hajj tamattu', you did sa'i after Umrah, now you're going to do another sa'i after tawaf al-ifada. Okay? So, but the same way, Safa to Marwa 7 times, just as we described earlier. Okay? Now, so these 4 things, right? These 4 things. Here's the thing. When you have performed all of them, then you are out of ihram completely. You're out of ihram completely, meaning that you can have intimacy with your spouse and do everything. But coming out of ihram of Hajj is a 2-step process. You come out of ihram, the first step, some things become halal for you, some things remain haram. And after the second step, everything becomes halal for you. So once you've done these 4 things, everything becomes halal for you. But at what point does some things become halal for you and some things don't? Well, after the first step. What becomes halal after the first step? Everything except sexual intercourse. Scent, removal of hair, regular clothes for men, covering the face for women. Everything except sexual intercourse becomes halal after the first step. And after the second step, everything becomes halal. So when does the first step take place? There's some ikhtilaf about this. Okay? According to the Hanafi school, most of you are Hanafis, according to the Hanafi school, the first exit of ihram is when you have offered your sacrifice. When you have shaved your head. When you have shaved your head. But you cannot shave your head unless you have offered your sacrifice. And you cannot offer your sacrifice unless you have thrown pebbles. So in the Hanafi school, this order has to be maintained. You have to throw pebbles first, then you have to wait for the sacrifice. You cannot cut your hair until you get that confirmation of the sacrifice. Once you get the confirmation of the sacrifice, your ihram is still intact. You're not out of ihram yet. Until you shave or trim your hair, then Now everything is halal for you. You can wear your regular clothing except for sexual intercourse with your spouse. For that, you have to also do the other step, which is tawaf around the Kaaba. Okay? Now, technically, tawaf can be done at any time. So the order that is required is between 3 out of the 4 things. You have to do the throwing of the pebbles before the sacrifice. You have to do the sacrifice before shaving of the head. But tawaf can be done any time. Any time. Okay? The preferred way, the way of the Prophet ﷺ, is to throw the pebbles first, then do the sacrifice, then shave your head, then do the tawaf. Okay? Now, if you do it in this way, then in tawaf, you'll be wearing regular clothes because you're out of ihram. But if you decide to do your tawaf first, well, then you'll be in ihram. Okay? And remember, after tawaf is sa'i. So same thing in sa'i. You may or may not be in ihram, depending on when you're doing your tawaf and sa'i, whether you're out of ihram or not. Okay? So, on the 10th day, you will do these 4 things. And then after these 4 things are done, your tawaf and sa'i are done, then you go back to Mina to spend the night there. Okay? So the night...
Sacrifice. And they said that they will let us know by text or something. For some reason I didn't get the text.
If you did not get the text, then you wait and you try to find out what happened to my sacrifice. But you do not, in the Hanafi school, you do not do the next step, which is shaving your head or trimming your hair, until you know that your sacrifice is done. Otherwise, if you do that, then you will have to offer another sacrifice because you have violated a wajib of Hajj. Yeah. If it's a trustworthy person, that comes and says, our entire group sacrifice is done, then alhamdulillah, you go with that, okay? Yes. Correct. Correct.
So if they use the USA number,
you will not get the text, right? If they're using the US number, that's what happened to me last time. I did not get the text because they had my US number and I was using a Saudi SIM. So I did not get the text, but that's okay because the group leader will come, the person who's in charge of the tent will tell everybody that your sacrifice is done, okay? Now, just to let you know, I know most of you are probably Hanafis, but just because sometimes, you know, in Hajj especially, it's difficult to stick to one madhab, okay? Alhamdulillah, we have differences of opinion that make our lives easier for us as well. So in the other schools, right, you don't have to wait for the sacrifice to come out of ihram. You don't have to wait for the sacrifice to come out of ihram. In other words, the sequence is not required. The sequence, you can get your head shaved before the sacrifice. In the Shafi'i school, the sequence is sunnah, it's not a requirement. So throwing the pebbles before the sacrifice and sacrifice before the shaving, this is sunnah in the Shafi'i school. You can flip the order, there's no problem there. Okay? So just to let you know, if you are facing difficulties because you don't have concentration, you don't know what to do, the whole day is about to end, you can go ahead and follow the Shafi'i school, inshallah ta'ala, and that will make your life a little bit easier for you. Alright? Now what's left is basically spending the night in Mina, and what is required here, and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, is to spend the majority of the night in Mina. Majority of the night, okay? So if you want to go back to Makkah and spend time in your hotel, you can do that as long as you spend the majority of the night in Mina. You can spend the day there if you want. The Prophet ﷺ actually did not go back to Makkah. He just stayed in Mina. He just stayed in Mina, day and night. But some people like to go back to Makkah. You can do that as long as you spend the majority of the night in Mina. We are talking about the 11th day of Dhul Hijjah, right? Because remember, on the 10th day, you're doing all of those things. After you finish your Tawaf al-Ifada, then you're going to go back to Mina to spend the night of the 11th in Mina, okay? Then on the day of the 11th, right? On the day of the 11th, you're going to go and throw pebbles at the 3 stones. Pebbles at the 3 stones, starting with the small one, then the medium one, then the large one. Each one 7. 7, 7, 7. Allahu Akbar, Bismillah, Wallahu Akbar, Bismillah, Wallahu Akbar, Bismillah, Wallahu Akbar, 7, 7, 7. And after each 7, you make dua. Then you move on to the next one. 7, make dua. Move on to the next one. 7, no dua. So dua after the first one, after the second one. Okay? You do that on the 11th day, and then you go back to your tent. Again, you spend most of the night in Mina, and then the 12th day, the same thing. 7, 7, 7, right? And then you have a choice. You can now be finished with your Hajj and go out of Mina, or you can spend one more night in Mina. One more night. The Prophet ﷺ spent 3 days in Mina. But the Quran tells us it's permissible for you to leave after 2 days. Okay, so it's up to you. You can leave after the 2nd day, or you can spend a 3rd day there and then leave after that. But if you are going to leave Mina on the 2nd day, right, on the 2nd day, then according to the majority of the scholars, you have to make sure that you have left Mina before sunset. You have to make sure, according to the majority, that you have left Mina before sunset. If you're stuck in traffic and you're not able to get out of Mina and that sun sets, go back to your tent. You're spending one more night here. Okay? Now the Hanafi school gives you all the way until Fajr. Not sunset, until Fajr. So you're stuck in traffic, the sun sets, it's okay. Keep waiting, keep waiting. As long as you're able to get out of Mina before Fajr of the 13th, right? Well then, you're fine. But if Fajr comes in and you're still stuck in traffic, well then go back. You're spending one more day. You're throwing, 21 more pebbles.
We're going to stay in 13th also.
No, you just basically have to go, you just go and throw the pebbles, the 21 pebbles, and then you can leave. Because you've already spent the night. You didn't want to, but you ended up spending the night there anyway, stuck in traffic, right? So basically, after you're done with the pebbles in Mina, you're done with your Hajj. Your Hajj is finished. This is the last step of Hajj. Okay? Questions? Yes? Throwing of the pebbles? Yeah, so throwing of the pebbles, according to the Hanafi school, once again, there are differences in opinion on this. The sunnah, let me tell you first the sunnah. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to throw the pebbles after zawal, before sunset. After zawal meaning after zuhr. Not the prayer of zuhr, the time of zuhr. When the time of zuhr comes in, any time between that and the sunset, that's the sunnah, to do it during that time. However, the permissible time is from zawal all the way until dawn, Fajr, according to the Hanafi school. Okay, so you can do your throwing of the pebbles after sunset, even all the way until Fajr. Okay. No, between Fajr and Zawal, you do not do that on the 1st day or the 2nd day. But you can do that on the 3rd day. On the 3rd day, you can throw right after Fajr. On the 3rd day, in the Hanafi school. Okay? Any other questions? 13th, yes. Any other questions? If you choose to stay until the 13th, right? Remember, you can leave on the 12th, right? You can leave after throwing pebbles on the 12th. But if you remain until the 13th, then on the 13th you will throw your pebbles, again, preferably after Zawal, but according to Hanafi school, even after Fajr, you can throw your pebbles, and then you can leave. Yes. Any other questions? We're good, inshallah? Yes?
When you say 13, technically we start with Jumrah on the 10th, and then on the 11th, usually after you can do the first round of all three, then the 12th you can do the second round of all three.
Correct.
But if you're staying through the 13th, you have to do a third round of all three.
Correct. Yeah. So it's 21, 21, 21 pebbles plus 7 on the 10th day. That's why we had 70 pebbles, right? 21 plus 21 plus 21 is 63, plus 7, that's 70. That's why we collected 70 pebbles. No, for jamarat you don't need to be in wudu. For jamarat, wudu is not required. Wudu is required for tawaf and salah, of course, yes.
But if your group leaves on the 12th, they don't have to stay till the 13th, so that's okay, as long as you have done.
If what?
Yeah.
What did you say?
If your group leaves on the 12th,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably not coming back, so we are good, right? Because we have done the running on the 12th.
If you have thrown your pebbles on the second day of Tashriq, on the 12th day of Dhul Hijjah, then you can leave. You can leave. The Quran tells you there is no blame on you if you leave after 2 days. So 11th, 12th, and you can leave. There's no blame on you, as long as you have thrown your pebbles. Yes? You can leave and come back to the US. I mean, yes, you're right. There's one thing left, and that is Tawaful Wada. Yes. Tawaful Wada is the farewell tawaf. And the farewell tawaf is done when you are leaving Makkah. When you're leaving Makkah.
Leaving Makkah, because some like my package, I'm staying here till 5th of July I'm leaving.
Okay.
So 30th is the 12th day.
Okay.
So I go 30th, I finish Tawaful Wada.
No. You do your Tawaful Wada on the 5th. You're leaving on the 5th, you do it on the 5th. Tawaful Wada, you're bidding farewell to the Kaaba. You're bidding it's like a friend. You have a friend and you're bidding them farewell. So if you're leaving town after 5 days, you wouldn't bid them farewell 5 days earlier, That's the last thing you do. I mean, the sunnah is that you basically finish all your shopping and everything. After everything, basically, after Tawaful Wada, the only thing you should do is prepare to leave. Like go pack your bag, take a shower, and then just leave, basically. No shopping, no socializing, none of that after Tawaful Wada. Preferably, that's the sunnah. That's the sunnah way of doing it. Allahu Alam. Any other questions? Yes? Yes.
Say you touch, but of course you crowded. Is there a gesture or symbol you need to do when you reach there?
Yemeni corner. If you're not able to touch the Yemeni corner, do you signal with your hand? There's ikhtilaf, okay? According to the Imam Shafi'i and his school, yes. You gesture with your right hand just like you do with the black stone. But other ulama, they say, no, that's only with the black stone. So, either way, it's sunnah. In the Shafi'i school, it's sunnah to gesture with your right hand. You don't have to do that, yes. Any other questions about Hajj? Yes.
About outside Umrah and Hajj, praying Salah, the area of Haram. Sometimes you cannot really get in. You are in the hotel, which is at the skirt of Haram. I mean, is this the same reward you get, or what's the difference?
When you pray Salah in your hotel room that is adjacent to the Haram, do you get the same reward as praying in Al-Masjid Al-Haram or Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi? The answer is, generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, no. Your hotel is not part of the masjid. Even the musalla in your hotel, is not part of Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi or Al-Masjid Al-Haram. It's part of the hotel. It's adjacent to the masjid. It's not part of the masjid. And so, unless you are praying in the lobby of your hotel or like the clock tower mall, and the rows are connected all the way to the masjid, connected all the way. If that's the case, then yes, you would get the reward of praying in the masjid. But most of the time, that's not what's happening. What's happening is that there's a gap, and people are praying in the lobby of the clock tower and so on, or in their musalla, and so you don't get the reward of praying in the masjid in that case. Yeah, go into the masjid and pray. So the masjid, alhamdulillah, the boundary of the masjid begins right outside of the clock tower. Right outside. The way to tell whether you are in the masjid or not, one easy way to tell, used to be the tiles, but now it's all construction. The easiest way to tell is, do you see any sellers there? Any sellers? If you see sellers there, then you're not in the masjid. Because no buying and selling is allowed in the masjid. So those tasbih sellers and Quran sellers, right? They're not allowed in the boundary of the masjid. So if you see them sitting there and selling something, you're not in the masjid. You need to keep walking. All right? I'm going to stop here because Imam Azhar has been waiting for a long time. I'm going to hand it over to him. Inshallah, he'll take us through the rest of today's program. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Sheikh, please take over.
Thank you. Pray for us so that we can go.
You pray for us, inshallah ta'ala, and we will pray for you, inshallah. Imam Azhar is going to continue with, I think, the spirit of Hajj. Is that right? Logistics.
I think what we'll do, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, we have to call the adhan now for Salat al-Dhuhr. So what we'll do is, inshallah, we'll have Salat al-Dhuhr, and as soon as it's done, we could all gather in the back there. Alhamdulillah, 2 weeks ago we discussed the spirit of Hajj, and we talked about some logistics because some pilgrims were leaving. Sheikh Arsalan, I don't know if you had a chance to meet with some of them last week. Did you get a chance to meet with some people? Yeah, okay, because some said that they were planning to meet with you last week since I was out of town, and they were leaving in this week that just passed. Nevertheless, alhamdulillah, Sheikh Arsalan has summarized, mashallah, in a very articulate fashion, the outline of Hajj and how things will move. Just to remember two things. There are no longer groups. Like, you're not going with a company, you're not going with someone you know. They will assign to you. What they've done is they have this murshid program where basically some scholars, and only actually predominantly in New York, scholars have signed up and been approved by the 8 agencies to be part of Hajj, which means that there's a possibility that if you're going under a Rajihi package or any other package, you may have a scholar with you. But this doesn't mean that that scholar will be there and accessible for you at all times whenever you need it. So groups as you know it are no longer available from America. If you're going from other countries, then that's a different case. The point of me saying this is imperative for us to be well versed, not just in what we're going to be doing on what day, at what time, but as we spoke last week, actually the week before last week, what's the spirit and mindset that we should have when we perform these actions? And we talked about that also. Be confident in your Hajj, as Sheikh Arsalan also talked about, be flexible. Because it's no longer what's in your control, it's about what's in the control of the government that's telling you what to do. So there's a possibility they'll tell you in Muzdalifah you will not pick up stones. There are many different valleys of Muzdalifah where you can spend night. And I was just there recently, and what I've noticed is that many areas of Muzdalifah are being paved. So they are not, it is not easy to find stones and pick them up. Number two, they throw a bunch of stones as a filtration system, and they'll tell you these are your 70 stones for pelting. Again, Fiqh in its place, school of thoughts in its place, staying in Muzdalifah to half night or till Fajr or Wuquf after Fajr, different school of thoughts. But if the people who are responsible for you to help you. About you getting to Hajj, it's about you amongst 2-3 million people doing Hajj. So we'll talk more about this after the Salat al-Dhuhr, inshallah. I have a little list I'll go through with you about what you should pack and what you should prepare to take with yourself. We've modified this over the years, so hopefully it could help everyone and that everyone has time to prepare accordingly. So inshallah, we'll have adhan, inshallah, we'll have our sunnah, and inshallah after Salat al-Dhuhr, sisters and brothers, we can meet in the back, inshallah, and we can continue. Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh Arsalan, for this beautiful presentation, and we make dua for all Hajj. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your intentions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to represent our community and keep us all in your prayers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from our scholars and our leaders all the services that they provide. Please remember them and us all in your du'as also. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khair. Jubaid, share that.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله